He could prove the universe started from a tiny single point, but frustratingly, not how or why.
No process.
Well, how did it start?
Nobody knows how it started. We know the kind of event that it must have been. We know the sort of event that must have happened for the origin of life.
What was that?
It was the origin of the first self-replicating molecule.
Right, and how did that happen?
I told you we don't know.
So you have no idea how it started?
No, nor has anybody.
Nor has anyone else.
The universe. It has laws that it must follow. There are laws of motion, the law of relativity, the law of thermodynamics, and other laws. But what about the human being? What laws govern mankind? What rules should men and women follow? Muslims believe that God sent prophets and messengers to people. Their job was to guide the people and teach them to lead moral lives and to be just, and most importantly, to worship God, the one who created them. One prophet was sent after another, each one teaching his own people, until finally a last messenger was sent to all of mankind, a 40-year-old man in the desert who never went to school and could not read or write.
Think about it. There's a man, a middle-aged man, who doesn't know how to read or write, who has no wealth, who is an orphan. Yes, he is from a very important tribe, but he works for a woman. And he now says, I'm the prophet. God has spoken to me.
The message Muhammad had received from God revealed that his people would be held accountable in the next life for their behavior in this one.
When the prophet, who did not know how to read and write, started revealing the words of the Quran, they acquired credibility because of the very nature of the words spoken. People would look at it and say, my goodness, this cannot be the words of a man. He could not have made this up.
In the library at school, and there was a book about Islam, and I was in the library, the public library, and I remember it was some title like "Why I'm Not a Muslim" or some, one of these titles that was propagandistic against Islam, but I had no idea. It said that Muslims were people who worshipped a moon god named Allah, who lived in a box in the desert in Saudi Arabia, and they were oppressive to women. I remember there was a whole chapter about how they could have 4 wives and as many as they want, actually, because they could marry 2, divorce 1, get 3 more. This whole. The one thing that really caught my attention was the whole chapter on jihad, where it said that Muslims were allowed to kill non-Muslims at any time, at any place, without discretion, and it was an honorable act, and not only would they go to heaven before it, but they would get 70 virgins on the way. So I closed the book on Islam, put it back on the shelf, and marked off Islam off my little list of religions, and said thanks but no thanks, and if I ever see a Muslim, I am out. He said, we're about to pray. And I said, pray to who? And he said, to God. I said, which one? And he said, the one that created the heavens and earth. You know, the same one that's in the Bible, you know, the only creator of the heavens and earth, the only God. I said, yes, I know him. So the Imam started to pray, and when he recited the Quran, I know it sounded very intriguing. I had no idea what it was. But then when I saw Muslims bow and prostrate on the floor, verses and verses of every religious book that I had ever read started ringing off in my head that this was the way men of God prayed. And the first thing that I could think of in my mind was, this is worship. That's what I said to myself. This is not prayer, because prayers are asking God for something. These people are worshiping God. So I said to myself that you've written this religion off way too easily. I thought I was a much more open-minded person than that, and I was ashamed of myself that I had written it off with just one little book. You know, I had put all these studies into the other religions. I read this one thing about Islam and was done. I said, do you have a book? This is what I wanted to know. Do you have a book? Can you give me? He said, yes, we have a book. I said, it's called the Quran. I said, can I read it? Is it in English? Can I read it? He said, sure, you can read it. And then he tried to explain it to me a little bit, how it came by. I said, nah, just give me the book, because the book should speak for itself.
So how do you convince people that Islam is the truth? Tell them, prove to me that a human being wrote this book.